All right, next let's talk about Chewy. It's a meme stock influencer, Keith Gill, known online as Roaring Kitty, dissolved his stake in the pet products retailer. Gill had a more than 6% stake in Chewy as of June. That was according to a previous SEC filing. So again, getting rid of or selling his stake within the company. It is important to point out, now, Roaring Kitty has very much been associated with the meme stock trade. So when you think of meme stock, you think very much of his involvement with GameStop. If you're familiar with Roaring Kitty, I think that's clearly the first stock that comes to mind. Obviously, some of the other names that have been caught up in the meme trade. It is important to point out, though, that the trading pattern, when you take a look at a longer-term chart of Chewy, has been very different from some of those meme stock trades, right? So it is important to point that out, but obviously just his involvement has attracted some of those retail investors to the stock. And again, you got to wonder how significant this is on an intraday basis. You're not looking at a huge move.
Props to Keith Gill for owning enough of a company that he has to have an SEC filing, right? I mean, that's one just sort of fun takeaway from this. I think from a market perspective, just enjoying watching some of these moves, the fact that he owns enough of a company that it's required to put an SEC filing, these exiting positions, shows how big these positions have got for Keith Gill, right? But I do think, Shauna, you make an interesting point. If this was GameStop and he exited his position and that news came out after the bell yesterday, the stock would be moving. The stock is not moving because there is an actual investor story with Chewy that people have bought into here, and people weren't necessarily buying this stock just to make a meme trade out of it. And I think that's probably the biggest takeaway I would have on Chewy overall today is good for Chewy that it's not getting influenced by this meme madness, and Keith Gill leaving doesn't mean that it actually hurts the fundamental story, which, as you pointed out, year to date has been going quite well for them. Yeah, exactly. Certainly we have seen a turnaround since the slump that we saw in 2023. So again, when you take a look out also at their guidance, that of course will be key at that next earnings report.